anyone, and that's why we want to educate everyone. The second part of our initiative is to reduce the supply of illicit drugs. 90% of the heroin in America comes from our southern border, where eventually the Democrats will agree with us and will build the wall to keep the damn drugs out.
Eventually, but not yet. Boy, the president was pretty fired up when he was speaking up in New Hampshire. You know, Chris Arps is a political consultant. Did you also think that was a little coincidental that he went up to New Hampshire right after Jeff Flake did?
I do not. I think that was part of the trip. But we do know that New Hampshire does have an opioid epidemic, and he did have a major.
No, I agree that he had a good reason to be there. I'm just saying,
but I don't think it was coincidental at all.
It wasn't Birmingham, Alabama. It was. Yeah. It was Manchester, New Hampshire.
Well, you know how we've seen Donald Trump since he's been running for president, and since he's been president, he likes to have the last word. And I think this was just, I will have the last word on this kind of
Speaking
thing.
of which, we're standing by for a White House press briefing, and the president's getting ready to hold a sanctuary city roundtable, whatever that means. I guess a roundtable on sanctuary cities. And what we've learned in the meantime is there's a city, Los Alamitos in California, that has opted out of sanctuary city status. The mayor's taken all kinds of grief out there for doing that. A little bit of common sense in some parts of California. I don't know if that's the part that's going to secede or not. What do you think? I've heard
Who knows?
They want to split the state.
You know, you hear, and I don't know if it's true, I don't live out there or have people out there, but they say that California is like Missouri, where the major cities are where they are very Democratic, but if you go out in the rural areas, it's very Republican. And I hear L.A. and San Francisco, that's the Democrat area. But outside of that, especially in Northern California, it's pretty conservative.
From Northern California all the way to Tacoma, Philadelphia, Atlanta. I'm just teasing. I don't want to get me started on a Hillary Clinton thing here. So I brought this up earlier. In Forbes, our friend Scott Jones posted this today, that basically blaming this goes back to last year, to 2016, but basically blaming the Donald Trump election on the fact that voters who just recently turned 70 were the last generation to live when Jim Crow laws were still in effect. And when Donald Trump says he wants to make America great again, that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, but we heard after the election, and all the pundits, especially the Democrats, were shocked that Donald Trump won white women. They crossed over and voted for him. So I don't know where that comes from.
Well, they only did that because their husbands or their sons or their bosses told them to. Come on, get with the program.
Donald Trump was elected with 70-year-old white men. He was elected with white women. He was elected with African Americans like me who are conservative, who looked at the alternative of Hillary Clinton and held our nose and held our breath and voted for the president back in November. That's who voted for Donald Trump. It wasn't 70-year-old white men that put him over the top.
Couldn't agree with you more. All the author tries to do here is point out that all those years ago, it was before the first openly gay person was elected. There were no blacks, and you could go to through all your years of high school and not run into a black person. These are the people who Donald Trump fired up to go to the polls and vote. And my argument is, nothing could be further from the truth. And the author of this article also tries to point out that the Tea Party was all about racism and hating Barack Obama. And what I pointed out to these folks this morning is, you clearly don't know your history, and you have no desire to learn it. I told them to Google Rick Santelli. Rick Santelli, in my opinion, is the father of the Tea Party.
That's the current spending. Stop spending. Stop spending. Stop spending. Stop spending. Stop spending. That's what we want.
The gasoline was added on the Tea Party fire when Barack Obama and the Democrats proposed Obamacare, and they were telling Americans who love freedom that under penalty of law and under going to jail and paying a fine, you were going to be required to buy health insurance. That's what fired up the Tea Party and got people angry. It could have been a Martian that was green. If he was proposing that, you'd have Americans just as angry about that. We don't like to be told or forced that we have to buy a product. It's unconstitutional.
Well, I agree. I mean, I think that had a lot to do with it. But the allegation is that the Tea Party in and of itself, was racist. That they only got together because it was a bunch of there were libertarians, there were some conservative Democrats. A lot of people rose up around the time around 2008, 2009, around the time of the Tea Party, because they saw a government bureaucracy growing out of control and trying to control every part of people's lives through things like Obamacare. I agree. Obamacare had a lot to do with the fuel on the fire.
I've said this publicly to Scott Jones on Facebook, and I've said it here, and I'll say it here on the air. Scott Jones and his family are invested in being victims, victimology, being oppressed. That's what they do. That's their industry. They've been involved with the local NAACP for years. So I can't ever believe that someone with that history would ever be looking to try to really improve race relations. They're always going to be looking under the rock, looking for some type of discrimination, some type of racism to have their existence be, Justified. Thank you. Well, you got me fired up there.
I guess I do there. That's good.
But and the thing that he fired me up yesterday is look, and we're going to be, and this kind of comes to our big announcement that we're going to be talking about. He said that this person is a horrible person, and they are an embarrassment as being a black man or whatever. And I don't have a problem with someone disagreeing with somebody's political beliefs. I really don't. But it's just completely insulting to me when somebody that's another black person acts like they got the holy grail of what it means to be black, and they can define it and tell me I have to accept this or I am not black. It not only angers me, it's insulting. And, disagree with me all you like, but don't question my blackness or anything like that, because first of all, you don't know me. You may hear me on the radio here on your show, which I always appreciate doing, or on Facebook, but when it really comes down to me, you don't know who I am. And my friends do, and that's what really matters to me. And that's why stuff like that goes over my head and doesn't bother me, because the people that know me and know my character and know who I am, that's who counts.
Because they should judge you by your character.
Exactly.
Right?
Isn't that in a
Thank
speech?
you. I heard that somewhere. I'm trying to, It just sounds so familiar. But about your announcement, Burgess Owens coming to St. Louis. Former NFL player. He's been very outspoken for the last couple of years when it comes to politics.
Yes, he's written a couple of best-selling books. We've had him here on your show when I've hosted. We've had him on the Weekend Report. He's going to be coming to town on April 21st down at The View at 1034 Brentwood across from the Galleria. Tickets are going to be $20, $30 for VIP, so there's not going to be a lot of those. So I would encourage people to go to the website, 97.1's website, or go to moveonup.org's website, which is themoveonup.org, THE, moveonup.org, and grab your tickets. It's going to be an exciting evening. Let me put this in here that this is presented by Move On Up, 97.1, the Tim Jones Show, and the Weekend Report with Tony Colombo and me. So we're all putting this together. Going to have a question and answer session. He's going to autograph books. It's not going to be boring, folks. Trust me. Burgess is very outspoken, and you've seen him on Fox.
Plus, apparently, you're going to have to walk through a ring of protesters just to get into the building.
I hope not.
From what I can tell.
I hope not. But
Scott Jones is going to be out there marching around in front of the building.
He probably will. Singing "We Shall Overcome."